Well, today we have Kale Hike, like football, hike football. And he's with Harrison Mecklenburg in Kingfisher. You don't just only work in Kingfisher, though, I assume.
Right,
You kind of go around a little bit. And Hennessy folks know who you are, but we're going to introduce you to everybody else, okay? And so you grew up in Hennessy, right? So tell us a little bit about how you grew up and where you grew up and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, born and raised in Hennessy. I grew up on the family farm. Grew up harvesting wheat every summer, and we had cattle and things like that. And growing up in Hennessy was such a great time. And most of my family's still here, and high school sweetheart and my wife is from Hennessy, and so we're both from the area. And Hennessy was great to us, and we're happy to be closer to home. We're back in Kingfisher.
And what year did you
now,
graduate?
So I graduated in 2013.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you, so then where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
I went to Oklahoma State in Stillwater.
Okay.
Yep. Spent 4 years there, and then moved to Kansas City after Lindsay and I got married, and spent a couple years there before I decided to go back to law school, and then we went to Norman.
Oh, so law school wasn't your first thing?
Yeah.
What was your OSU degree?
Well, I actually got a degree in math, which I know it doesn't sound like, the natural path to law school, but because most of my classmates, they hated math. That's why they're in law school. That's what kind of the cliche was.
Okay.
But there was a handful of us that had, math or engineering backgrounds. And interesting enough, one of my math advisors at OSU told us about they were thinking about adding a pre-law math option, and I would never put the two together. But
it must be a thing.
Yeah. There's actually some articles I found online that says math is actually one of the best degrees you can get for law school because of the overlap in the critical thinking and logical thinking.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to tell people.
I thought it would have been more of a political degree or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never really been into politics, but like I said, most of my classmates had political science degrees, and but I like to say, a legal issue is a lot like a math problem, except with words and laws. You're trying to, apply the facts to the laws in just like a math problem.
Problem solving. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So it was, I thought about it early on, and maybe like in middle school or something. But being an introvert, I didn't want to get in front of a courtroom and things like that.
You don't want to be the Lincoln lawyer.
Exactly.
Have you seen that show?
Oh yes. Yeah. I love those shows. But. Yeah, that's definitely a totally different skill set, being able to get in front of a jury and tell a story, sell a story. But some of the analytical reasoning and things like that, I think, kind of lend itself to being a lawyer. And so, yeah, it ended up being a great fit.
Wow.
From the math background.
And so where did you have a job when you went to Missouri? Were you working? What were you doing there?
Yeah, so when I got my math degree, I wanted to be an actuary. And
what is that?
So I have to explain it to most people.
Please, it's a big word.
Yeah. So, there's one famous movie called Along Came Polly with Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston. Okay. He's an actuary. And so you basically assess the risk of different things and tell insurance companies, hey, you need to charge this amount to insure this type of person. So you're doing a lot of statistics and things like that. And I never really put it together, but being a lawyer, I kind of analyze risk and tell clients, weighing risks is kind of part of the lawyer's job. And so I guess I've always been risk averse. And so naturally my career path kind of has stayed in that lane. But yeah, I did that. And then, so in Missouri, I ended up working at at a bank, doing some mutual fund accounting. And it was pretty monotonous. And so I started looking for different paths and eventually decided to go back to school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And why a lawyer? What drove you to that?
Well, if you've ever seen Better Call Saul,
heck yeah.
Yeah, just seeing it, that show came out around the same time, and I thought, you know what, let's do that. No, that wasn't the only reason, but just imagining me having my own little office in the back of a nail salon, the entrepreneurial dream, right?
Yeah.
But no, I've always had in the back of my mind, I wanted to come home because we moved away, and that was great for us, kind of finding our own life. And but like I said, I've always had in the back of my mind, I wanted to come home and find a way to see the difference I'm making in people's lives. And my dad always told me on the farm that I needed to study hard and do well in school, so I didn't have to be a farmer. But being away, living in the city for so long, some part of me kind of wants to go back and farm, but
Yeah.
after being surrounded by so many people all the time. But no, just the idea of being able to kind of give back and, like I said, see the difference I'm making in people's lives. And so I tried to kind of find a way to combine my skill set with, that fulfilling career aspect of it. And the law just seemed to make a lot of sense. And around the time, I also read a bunch of articles about how there's a kind of a shortage of rural lawyers, and everything's kind of concentrating in the big cities, and it seemed like a need. And like I said, just kind of with the math background, that idea of the law being connected to the math, it all just kind of played into my
Wow, that's
idea.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know it until it happened. Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. So I guess you could say I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and it somehow got to Norman.
I love it. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to find out how you ended up in Kingfisher and what you're doing and these kind of things. Stay tuned.
Every word is a step. Every balance is a step. Every cut is a step. Every helping hand is a step.
At Gonzalez Therapy, every little step today is a big step for their tomorrow. The future starts here with Gonzalez Therapy.
And we're back. So, how did you end up in Kingfisher? I mean, you could have, I guess, as a new degreed attorney, you could go anywhere you want.
Yeah. Well, I tried to do a couple things. I tried a few different things before ending up in Kingfisher. First, I got a job in Tulsa working for a judge, and it was only a 1 year, I guess it's called a clerkship. So he was on the Court of Civil Appeals, and so I worked there for a year. And I basically bought myself another year of job searching doing that. But it was a great experience. And so I found a job in Oklahoma City with an oil and gas litigation firm. And I spent 2 years doing that. So, in a roundabout way, I kind of did everything else before coming home. Just wanted to...
Well, and you need that for experience and to know that home is where you want to be, too.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife and I talked a lot about it, and we felt like we could always come back, and we always wanted to, but we felt, if we tried to do something here right away, I didn't want to think what if. And so it all kind of, worked out how it was supposed to, I think. But I guess to answer your question, before I got to Kingfisher, or before I took my job in Oklahoma City, I actually reached out to Ralph Harrison when I was in Tulsa, and I wanted to kind of just, pick his brain on what it's like working in Kingfisher County, because ultimately, like I said, that's where I want to end up. And so we kind of started that relationship, and I talked to him, and then took the job in Oklahoma City. And then after a couple years, the timing worked out pretty well because Lindsay and I had our first baby. And then a couple months later, Ralph had reached out to me and wanted to meet up again and just kind of have a conversation about maybe coming to work with him. And like I said, having our first baby, wanting him to grow up how we grew up in a smaller community, especially in Kingfisher County, closer to both our families. We just thought it made sense. I had a couple years of experience, so I could come in and add value to the firm in that way. And then beyond that, Harrison and Mecklenburg, Ralph and Randy represent my dad and my grandfather, and even my great grandfather, as Randy likes to tell people how old he is. He did some estate planning for my great grandparents.
Sure.
And so, just having that connection to Kingfisher County and my family personally, it made a lot of sense. And it was a lot less intimidating than trying to open up my own shop. Yeah. And so, I'm happy to be there. I've been there for a few months now, and we just got moved into Kingfisher. So. And
so, what is where's the area where you feel you can do the best? What part are you practicing?
I think I primarily work in property and oil and gas type issues, from reviewing contracts all the way up to lawsuits that might come up. Because again, that's kind of what the firm that I worked at in Oklahoma City was, an oil and gas litigation firm, and so that's the most experience I have. But I've have experienced a lot of different, just general civil type matters working at Harrison and Mecklenburg, and so I guess anything except family and criminal law. So
Sure.
yeah, a lot of contract stuff and business stuff, and yeah.
So and the I guess the family and litigation stuff is a whole different kind of career path, I guess, or specialty, if you would.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the criminal laws are a lot different. And I mentioned earlier I worked for the Court of Civil Appeals, but during law school I worked for the Court of Criminal Appeals. And so I will say, when you're reading through a transcript about this thick from a criminal case, it's a lot more interesting of a read than when you're reading some dull civil matter. Yeah. But the legal issues tend to be a little bit more interesting in civil. Because in criminal law, it seems like it's really comes down to a matter of whether somebody did it or they didn't. Yep. And I think being a criminal lawyer would eventually start to weigh on a person. But yeah.
Did you see My Cousin Vinny?
Yeah, I've seen that, definitely. Yeah, I just don't think I'm cut out for that.
Well, he wasn't either, but he faked
right.
his way through it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And his girlfriend saved his rear. But so, what's the future look like? Do you feel you're going to want to someday hang out your own shingle, or what are you thinking?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I love where I'm at, and Ralph and Randy have created a great firm and a great reputation in Kingfisher County, and I could definitely see myself staying there and establishing myself and continuing on their legacy. But yeah, I'm just kind of playing it by ear and seeing what happens. But yeah, I've really enjoyed being there and kind of continuing my practice and establishing myself in Kingfisher. And yeah, I really like where I'm at. So I'm kind of just seeing what the future has for me.
Well, and I know you have you have one child now.
Yes, okay. That's right.
And I know that's like a full-time job all by itself. What does you and your wife enjoy doing? I mean, you have any hobbies or what?
Yeah, well, before he came along, we loved to go and see live music, and kind of music is a big thing we were into and still are a little bit. But obviously with a child, it's a little bit, our priorities have shifted.
Put earplugs in, right?
Yeah, we do have a little set of headphones, but he throws them off anytime we try to put them on. But no, we just like to spend time together and get outside as much as we can. And he loves to be outside, and he has one direction, and he'll just go forever until he gets tired, and then we have to pick him up and walk back.
Drag him back, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, just being outside and spending time with family, and that's kind of where we're at nowadays. But that's why I'm excited to kind of get plugged into Kingfisher. And
yep. And that's a little slogan I have is come home and make a difference, and that's truly what you have done. You've been out, you kind of see what the rest of Oklahoma and Missouri look like, and you now come home and you can make a difference to your own community now.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
Well, awesome. This was pretty neat. I had, I heard that you had joined the law firm, but I hadn't. This is the first time we've spoke since that, so I wanted to hear the backstory. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're very, very happy to be there, and happy to get to know the community and hopefully start seeing some more familiar faces.
Yeah, there you go. Well, if you need help, he's
That's
the
right.
guy. Kale, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Good. Stay tuned.